Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Star Trek Strange New Worlds Asylum by Una McCormack. Now, Una McCormack has written a lot of Star Trek novels, and I haven't gotten to read all of them, but she has written some really excellent books. She wrote the novel The Crimson Shadow, which is part of the Fall series, and this is my favorite book in that series, and I think is just an incredible look at basically a society that's basically a post-World War II Europe. I think she did an incredible job with this book. She also wrote one of my favorite standalones, which was Star Trek Picard: The Last Best Hope, which I also really loved. This is a look at kind of a refugee crisis and a climate crisis when a sun is about to blow up and they're trying to get everyone out of the system. I thought that was an excellent Star Trek story. And then we had Second Self, which I didn't particularly care for. I thought it was just okay. And I didn't love it. But there's a lot more books she's written that I haven't been able to read. She did write The Missing, which I also enjoyed. And then she also has the new book, Asylum, which is the second book in the Strange New Worlds series. They have the first book, The High Country, that is connected to the TV show. And the second book is Asylum. And the first difference between these books is the length. Asylum is a very short book. High Country for Star Trek is a very long book. Asylum has about 300 pages, about 305 pages, and they had to really stretch it out to make it 300 pages. This book, The High Country, came at a time when they weren't able to print as many pages per book, so they had to dramatically decrease the font size. And so it's a really long book. It's about 380 pages. It's a really long book that's squeezed into fewer pages. So it looks about the same. Oh no, this is way longer. So this is a nice short read. I was able to read it in about a day. And Asylum is basically takes place in two time periods. You have the earlier time period, which is about 2233, which is when Pike is an ensign and he's actually guest lecturing at the Academy, Starfleet Academy. And you have Una Chin Riley, who is a student at the Academy. She is a senior. And so they form kind of an odd friendship during that time. And there is this group that is fleeing Chion and the part of fleeing the Exana treatment. And Una Chin Riley kind of gets caught up in that. And that's the earlier time. Then in the later time period is during the time about the show would be set during about 2260, and it features Una and Pike and all the rest of the crew of the Enterprise as they're trying to deal with this same planet as it's dealing with some trade negotiations with the Federation and some other negotiations with the Federation. And so some of the things that pop up from the earlier part of the book end up being a part of the later part of the book. And it all has to do with these themes about refugees and about how governments treat people of other ethnic types in their countries, or planets in this case, and how refugees are handled as they leave one planet and try to go to another. And just Una always tackles deep themes in her books. Occasionally it doesn't particularly work well, like Second Self, and then you have times where it works amazingly. I think The Last Best Hope and Crimson Shadow are excellent examples of deep themes resonating in the books. And I would say that she does a good job with the themes here. Not quite as good as with the other two books, but Una does a very good job resonating those themes. That said, the book is extremely on the nose. I mean, it's incredible how on the nose the themes in this book are. To the point that there is at one point where this kind of terrorism group strikes, and the slogan that they use as part of their strike is Free Exana, which of course has very obvious echoes of the real-life Free Palestine movement versus Israel. And you have, one group that is in charge of this land on the original planet, and the other group is trying to wrestle it away, and they think it's their land, and they're arguing about who has the right culture and stuff. And it's just it was very on the nose. And I have a friend who read the book, and he didn't feel it was as on the nose as I did, but I felt it was like, it's obvious what this is referencing. It's a very obvious parallel. And sometimes that works. For instance, The Crimson Shadow dealt with very obvious parallels about Germany post-World War II. I think that because it was more historical and less ripped from the headlines, that it worked better. And of course, The Last Best Hope had some climate change issues and some other themes that it dealt with, but it didn't feel necessarily ripped from the headlines. It still felt nebulous, whereas this felt very much that you could just, cut out the science fiction elements and replace it with real life, and it would be very accurate to today. But I still enjoyed the book. I felt that the book flew by, not just because it's short, but because it's enjoyable. I've played plenty of short Star Trek books that were a chore to get through. This was very entertaining. There's a mystery in the second half of the book that I really enjoyed. The mystery here is excellent. I think that Una McCormack does a great job of making you guess. And at some points I was like, oh, it's obviously got to be this, or it's obviously cannot be this. And sometimes I was really right, and sometimes I was really wrong. And I think Una did a good job of her misdirects. I also thought that the first part of the book just had so much heart with Una, the character of Una Chin Riley. That's really hard when you're talking about Una the character, Una the author. Two different things. And Una did not name Una. This is getting too confusing. Una Chin Riley, that's well, I'll say the full name. Una Chin Riley, the character, is going through some stuff, and she has to weigh these difficult decisions. Does she focus on her academics, on her music, on her friendships, on her jobs with the help volunteering with the refugees? There's so much in this book that Una has to go through. And Pike is going through a lot himself. He has this court hearing that he's dealing with, and he's having to figure out how to be a teacher and also how to be a friend. And I just thought that the book was very, very well handled their relationship as a friendship, and also just really handled them as dynamic characters in the book. So I really liked that element of it. So overall, this was a very enjoyable book. It is not a favorite by any means. I still prefer Last Best Hope and Crimson Shadow, and probably The Missing, and then I would put this after that, but definitely this is, I think, a lot better than Second Self was. But I really enjoyed this book. It made me think. I disagree with Una on a lot of stuff, but it made me think at least, and I appreciate that from the book. So I thought the book was particularly very fun, not amazing, but a very interesting book, very much ripped from today's headlines. So if you've read Asylum by Una McCormack, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.